There you go.
Drum beats and guitar riffs to the World Wide Web, from one countryside to the next. It's an international love affair, and new music is our gift to the free world. Our freedom of expression is only limited by our creativity, so we stand together, and because of it, our voices are unlimited. We represent every corner of the world as we broadcast our message to every country, state, city, and town. Our supporters have expressed tremendous gratitude for taking the high road and giving them free music again to the world. the world.
Truthseekers, seeking truth. A truth so bold it's hard to hold. Truthseekers, truthseekers, yeah. Place the cash, place the cash.
Well, greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight is going to be a fun conversation, and one I've been hoping to have for some time. Getting out of the rabbit hole, surviving the rabbit hole can be extremely challenging. And I thought it would be helpful to, and almost a therapy session. I've often talked about this concept of the second red pill. Why do so many people get stuck down this rabbit hole? And I think we're going to explore some of that tonight. To me, it was an alternate reality, a secret world where you're in on all kinds of things that regular people just don't know about. And you know the truth, and you know more about reality than most people, or so you think, until that second red pill comes and you realize you've quite possibly wasted a tremendous amount of time down a crazy rabbit hole full of deception and profit-driven motives to keep you there. Tonight's guest is Lu Angeles, who is a successful comedian and actor from the West Coast, and he got stuck down the rabbit hole and for a time ran what most would argue was one of the most successful YouTube shows about UFOs on planet Earth. And then things took a strange turn when he decided to ask one UFO celebrity some real questions. And things took quite a turn for him. And it's interesting that once the applauded hero of disclosure has sort of changed his tune and now become a voice of reason for people stuck down that rabbit hole. So we're going to bring him in here. 1 second here. Let me get the background. Sorry about that. Oh, there we go. Okay, welcome, Lu Angeles.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to have you here.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've been watching, I like that you did this 180. A lot of people didn't like that. Have you kind of been feeling that, like, truth tax, like the difference between just all in, like this is all real, and supporting some of the strange characters to now?
I mean, what, like, are you asking me what the difference is? Like, have I noticed?
Yeah, like, have you, is it it's a huge stark difference doing it the way that you're doing it now compared to when you started, right?
I mean, yes and no. I think it's because, look, I was never told to push a narrative. I was doing a lot of that stuff on my own, out of my own goodwill. And I feel like, there was never like the only intention from the things that I was doing was that, I just wanted to have a good time. I wanted it to look good, sound good, and I wanted to try and help the discussion as much as I could. But I thought, even at the time, and I thought, I don't give myself enough credit, but we did, at least with Michael and with Rather, they were good counterbalance to my belief system. So there was always at least questions being asked and beliefs being pushed, especially from Rather. Like Rather got us to talk to Mick West. Rather got us to just take the emotion out of what Mick West is saying and actually listen to what he's saying. And what he's articulating. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. When he's not that bad of a guy after all. He's not saying that they're not real.
Yeah, imagine that. He's not the devil. Yeah.
He's not the devil. It's like he's putting a rational argument. Okay, cool. Like, and he's also doing some great math on a lot of questions that I don't know how to do the math to. So, it's great that we have people like that in the field that are, adding clarity to the discussion. So the difference, I still do the same show, but I just call out the narrative when it's being pushed in such a blatant and gross, disgusting way. And when people aren't connected, like, I don't want to say connecting the dots, because it's just like, I'm not an, an expert at connecting dots, but it just seems.
Oh no, actually, I listened to a few of your latest, and I think you're doing a great job at that, because you're like looking beyond the layers of deception used to build the stories now, where before you were just listening to the stories and but I liked Rather and the pushback, and it's a shame with what happened with that whole situation. Is he like not want to do the show with you because of the harassment and all of the nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's bailed because of the harassment and the nonsense. Jane, Michael, and Rather. I'm the only one who's stuck around and just sort of like, still share my opinion on these things. Like, it's funny because when I first started UCR, if all the videos were available, you'd see the first 20 or 30 episodes. I covered both seasons of Unidentified, and I questioned the shit out of them. I had made videos about Bob Lazar being a pimp, and I got a lot of pushback on those videos early in my
I wasn't aware of that. No, by the time I became aware of you, it was like UFO Celebrity Central over there. So I was like, what's going on over here? Yeah.
My biggest complaint, I remember my biggest complaint in the first few episodes about Unidentified was the same things that they did to sell us after 9/11 to sell us a war, putting the American flag behind every single patriot, and the United States military is like this entity that is just so trustworthy and so so untouchable. So it's like, how dare you question if these guys could get anything wrong? Because look at the integrity, look at their bona fides, look at where they've been, look at what they've done for this country, and it's just like, yeah, I get it, but they can also make mistakes, like they're
and that's what I thought. I thought it's a trick. It's a trick. Like, look at this highly placed intelligence officer, and he was in on all the secrets. To me, it becomes part of the grift. Yeah. If they don't have evidence to show, they talk about their prestigious, accomplished backgrounds that would make people believe that they were in on some kind of national security secrets or what the government knows. And the truth is, I think most of these guys are just as clueless as the rest of us.
I agree. Yeah, I think they're just as clueless as anyone. I again, like I talked about last night, I believe on my show, where it's just like I played that clip again of, I feel like every few months I'm going to play this clip of Lou Elizondo on Calling All Beings, just saying, I'm not a ufologist. I never have been. I never will.
I made a special edit of it. I played that shit out of that thing.
Dude, I honestly think we should play that once a week, man, and just like ram it down people's throats. Like,
remind them.
Confessing to you in one of his last appearances ever that he doesn't give a shit about this stuff, and that he was hired to use his expertise in counterintelligence and counterinsurgency and counterterrorism.
He says, I was sent into the
use
UFO
on the
community.
UFO community, you know, and it was just like, what?
Yeah, when I heard that the first time, I thought he got drunk and like slipped. You know?
No, I think
he like slipped the script.
I really do think, yeah, man. I like, my theory is, I really do think like it was mission accomplished for him, and he didn't care at that point. Like, I think he's gonna get his movie deals and his book deals. He knows those are coming, and he doesn't have to do podcasts anymore. He got the narrative out there, and you know, like I was discussing this in a space a couple of days ago, a 5.5-hour Twitter space I did, where I answered as many questions as I could about this whole thing. And you know, like I said, and if Lou Elizondo is running some kind of operation where he was bringing attention to a very real national security issue, and that national security issue being drone attacks, that section of the sky not being looked at properly, you know, our adversaries using weird looking drones on purpose, so then our military personnel do not report them because they know the stigma's high. They're taking advantage of a known stigma, our enemies, you know. So if Lou Elizondo manipulated a guy like me into doing the big phone home and advocating for this topic and getting lawmakers to pay attention to this section of the sky, and that's what actually happened, and that's why he's like, all right, I'm out now. I'm going to take advantage of book deals and movie deals and you know, go get my government contracts. Ciao. You know, if he did that to keep me safer, okay, but I mean, how can I be angry at him for that? But I just don't know if that's the case, you know? So
yeah, I always thought there was two possibilities, or really three with him. Is that one is just he just profit driven, and you know, he found these videos in the Pentagon and declared himself the director of an imaginary UFO program.
Yeah,
and he knew that would sell and that he would profit greatly from this, and there is no governmental involvement. And of course, the other possibility is that he was sent in to do exactly what you said, is to raise defense spending on these issues, you know.
Yeah,
could very well be, and I wouldn't hold that against him either. I mean, don't you think that it's important that we look at the things in our skies? I do, but the slimy way to go about it, though, you know, like, oh, I'm going to borrow these videos from the Pentagon, then I'm going to lie to the New York Times and claim I was a director of a Pentagon UFO program, and then it turns out he was in the land of make believe. Right. You know, these layers of deception that were used to sell this narrative start falling apart. And then he says that, you're right, it was one of his last podcasts, but he's just like, yeah, I got sent in to use my counterintelligence skills. And I was like, what did he just say? It's amazing.
Like, why do we know? It's just wild how that's just like, no, it doesn't matter, you guys. It doesn't matter that he said that. Like disclosure's already here, you guys. It doesn't matter. Like, I hate to break it to you guys. It's not. It's not as interesting as people are putting out there. Like I see Kimball is in the chat right now, and he had an interesting space today with a gentleman by the name of Nick Gold, and he is doing the Declassify UAP movement, basically a political action committee to engage representatives to declassify more UFO things, but there's no initiative whatsoever to improve FOIA. Whatsoever. There's not one
so
initiative.
It's not gonna have any teeth.
FOIA. Yeah, it's got no teeth whatsoever. But it's asking for all of, like, I don't know, the worst things. And also there's like I don't know, there's a few I asked him to come on the show. He was a very, very nice guy, very well spoken. The website's very well put together, but like, yeah, there are some things about this website and some connections that they have to certain organizations that are red flags for me, you know, and it's just wild how they've they've taken my idea and they've just put their spin on it. And it's like, the only people you can trust is new media, and new media is the Liberation Times. New media is,
Garbage peddlers.
News Nation, Ross Coulthart, Joe Rogan. And it's just like, none of these guys do any sort of fact checking or cross corroboration. They just Google shit. And that's their journalism, and
I call it right-click
research. They're not right.
That's what I call it, right-click research. Yeah, if it's not in Google's first 5 search topics, I'm not going to know,
Right. Yeah. And so, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just really frustrating, this is that we're not asking for, we have 3 videos in the public sector that are public. Everybody knows that they're out there, and the United States Navy claims that yes, those are our videos. Why can we not get the full versions of these videos? Why can't we get the cockpit recordings? Why can't we get simple information like how far away is the gimbal from the plane? How
it depends on who you ask. Yeah,
it depends on who you ask. Like nobody knows. You got one guy like Marieke von Kloppenstick that writes for The Hill. And again, that's another like journalist that these guys cite as credible sources of information. They're very biased, and they're biased, and they all seem to have heavy ties to the military industrial complex. They've worked for the SCU, which is located in Alabama, which is the cradle of the military industrial complex. There's a ton of guys that are ex-CIA, including Rich Hoffman. I believe it was ex-CIA. Like, all of these guys have worked in high-tech government programs, and all of them, for some reason, are pushing this narrative with very little proof. And when people like Mick West dare challenge them, they immediately shut everything off and block them. And it's like, oh no, their math isn't valid for some reason. Like their math doesn't like, are you kidding me? It doesn't count. Why?
Yeah. And I always want to say, like, I don't know, like I took computer science in college and it was all math. And like, math is math. Like, you can't really argue. You can't argue here. And sometimes somebody can make a mistake on a formula that you could spot and correct. But Mick West is a former game designer. This guy thinks in terms of math, and that's how I think that's how he's able to debunk so many things, just using math and logic,
Yeah, no, and it's helpful, like, it's like, okay, good, we know what that is. And Kimball, you're right, you did prop my efforts to the big phone home, and I appreciate that stuff, but it's like, it's just, I don't even really mind that part of it. It's just like the way that people are claiming, oh, I don't have a bias. I'm only in it for the scientific reasons, but I'm only going to cite the worst sources that are available out there on this topic and be connected to some of the, I think, shadiest organizations in this discussion, because all of these organizations like the SCU, the Galileo Project, Americans for Safe Aerospace, all of these organizations are lobbying and positioning themselves to get big government contracts. Like, every year, the NDAA gets expanded by billions of dollars, and everyone knows that the government is insanely wasteful. And I think these guys know that too. And I think these guys see a golden opportunity to make some real money off of a topic that the United States military can easily handle. Like, they could easily handle it.
But don't you think that's a big issue? A big issue might be that these guys know that the government is embarrassed. They have to be embarrassed. Like, you have the biggest military in the world. You have these huge military budgets, all these sensors, and we've got NORAD, whose job it is to track everything coming within our territorial space, and they're dropping the ball, screwing it up, and it's embarrassing. So I think that what they're betting for is that the government is going to want to offload that responsibility so that they have some idiot to blame. Like, well, that we paid this organization to study this issue, and they don't know what it is either, or it makes them blameless because they're just going to outsource it.
I think it's simpler, as in just let them talk about UFOs. they're not talking about the major fuck up that we did. They're not, when they point at the sky and they see something weird, they go, "Oh my God, it's alien," instead of, "Oh my God, China," or, the Navy, so I think it's for the Pentagon and the DOD, it's a little bit of have your cake and eat it too. It's like, maybe there is aliens. Maybe that
Convenient.
0.001% is a crashed object that we reverse engineered. But we're never going to give you any of that information because, well, you just don't have the clearance. Sorry,
Yeah,
But they're not giving it to congressmen. Congressmen are getting kicked out of skiffs and Air Force bases because they don't have the clearance.
yeah, and I think that's one of those fun things though that makes people think that it might be true what people are saying because there's a cover up and they're covering it up from Congress even. So it helps make the whole grift work,
It makes the grift work. It's a win-win for everyone because because these guys know the government's in a no-win situation. Like, you're right. They either admit to a huge hole and a huge mistake for the last 40 years that has built up to this very real issue that we have, or they play stupid and prolong the UFO discussion, which covers up the, you know what I mean? Like, and so these guys can go now, well, they're hiding things. They're doing this, administrative terrorism. This guy's a piece of shit, like attack this person and this person and this person, because they know the government's not going to come out and say, okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Look, here's what's going on. Like, we fucked up. Okay. We didn't look at this part of the sky because for a long time we stigmatized UFOs, and yes, we fired people. Yes, we demoted people. Yes, people's lives were ruined. This is a new Navy. This is a new Pentagon. This is a new Department of Defense. Today, our enemies know that this is a vulnerable part in our national security system, and that's because of our own mistakes. So here today, we're going to own up to this, and this whole UFO discussion, I know it's very interesting. I know it's very compelling, but we have not found zero evidence of, just like Arrow is saying, just like Dr. Kirkpatrick is saying, like, we haven't found anything. Yeah. We've found anomalous things, but he's also saying, I think they're anomalous because we don't have enough data. We don't have another person on the ground or another sensor.
Yeah, and now everybody's screaming cover up because some people said there was data. But
right.
Yeah. So it becomes this big, it becomes a big cloud of you can't discern out of this the truth.
Right.
It's like mission impossible.
You're right. I think the motives are hard to see, but I mean, like, I think it's, again, like, I'm not trying to play detective here, but I think it's like these guys know they can lobby for these big government contracts and these big wasteful bills, and they could call out the government like this, and the government, the DOD's got to just be like, just let these idiots do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if it costs us $100 million in government contracts to cover up this issue, okay, like, whatever, let it be what it be. I don't know.
That's pretty funny.
It's just wild, dude. Like, these guys know, like, they know, so they can take advantage of these contracts. They're going to make their money, and the DOD gets to fix the problem behind this UFO show and charade.
Yeah, and I think it is convenient that so many of these UFO celebrities are all creating some kind of organizations where they're actively seeking government contracts while they're promoting a UFO threat narrative. They're promoting, they're popularizing the idea that there's this UFO threat, and then at the same time they have an organization. We can solve that for you. We can help you with that.
Yeah, even though we have no equipment,
we have no idea.
We have no idea. We have no idea. We don't have any jets. We don't have any satellite systems. We don't have any, airships with complex and very, articulate radar systems. But we'll solve it for you. Trust us. Just give us that 20 million, 40 million, 800 million, billion.
Even the names contract. Of them, though, like Americans for Safe Aerospace. Like, that's a good name. Who doesn't want that? I fly sometimes. I want safe aerospace.
Yeah, sure. So but like, what's hilarious is it's Americans for Safe Aerospace, but we don't want your stories. We don't want your experiences. We don't want your sightings or anything you've seen. we only want it from the pilots and military people, like nobody else. I guess everybody else is not an American. They don't get to report shit.
That's a
It's
good
just
point.
it's just
Yeah.
these guys, like it's funny, man. It's really, really funny. It writes itself.
And then we have Gary Nolan and David Grush have an organization. And didn't Lou Elizondo, he had Skyfort, so he was trying to get those contracts. Like everybody's trying to get these contracts to handle UFOs.
Well, that's the thing is like this declassify UAP. When you look at who, like the about section and who's part of the organization, I'm looking at it now, who's behind this. And of course, it's Nick Gold. And there's this whole resume here and how he's part of SCU. He used to be part of the Galileo Project, and then you've got Mike Rezel, who's a consultant and moderator. And he has created websites for ufologists Jacques Vallée and Ryan Sprague, and YouTube channel It's Redacted, which is Jake Mann, who was a part of Skyfort, who is part of this whole thing.
It's so incestuous. It's always so incestuous. Yeah.
It's like all of these guys are connected to each other.
They're just UAP. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they're just changing the story. They're just changing what it looks like and what it's called, and they're it's like all it is like Skyfort 3.0. Essentially, like it's just a different version, and they try to legitimize it even more and more each time. It's interesting. This one's an LLC, so at least it's not a nonprofit, but like,
yeah, I like that though. UAP Transparency Advocate. It sounds good.
Right.
Like, yeah, let's get transparency on this issue. Right?
Sounds awesome. It sounds awesome, and it's like, I don't know, man, like.
Yeah, and doesn't it, I don't know. I would think, though, if you have a UFO organization, like, look at that. Created websites for ufologists, such as Jacques Vallée, Ryan Sprague, and the YouTube channel It's Redacted.
Right.
Like, that's not a good thing, because Jacques Vallée just got caught selling a book that was completely about a fake story made up by a UFO profiteering huckster. Completely and totally fake story. Ryan Sprague, I don't know. He's one of the biggest UFO. I call, he just plays along. He sits there and has the guests, and they tell their stories, and it's not helpful. You're not getting any, And I don't know. Redacted, great. I don't get it.
Yeah, he was part of the meeting that was supposed to happen with Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Sean Cahill, and Jake Mann, and forgetting someone here, one other guy who is anyway, but he's very well connected with Jake Mann. I'm forgetting his name right now, but like it's just funny how they pop up in all these other different organizations and things like that. It's just weird, man. It's weird.
Yeah, and when I see this, I go, "Oh, here's another organization that's trying to get some kind of funding or trying to, get some kind. At least they admit it's an LLC. It's not a nonprofit,
Right. Well, look at their donate. If you go to their support button, like it's just funny. They're straight up. They tell you that they have to report these donations. Every year, which is cool. They have to be transparent about it, but like when you go to about and you go to pledge, the pledges are, looks like they start at $500 or I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe I read it wrong, but
praise the cash, man.
Praise the cash, baby.
I'm going to become and one of the other things that always kind of makes me laugh is like, do you just declare yourself a UAP transparency advocate? Like, we can both just say we're UAP transparency activists, and I want $500 donations too.
Yeah, but it's
I'll call the government and harass them into,
Well, it says here the organization will publicly report all net revenue associated with its activities, donations, merchandise sales, potential speaker and appearance fees, and quarterly fundraising reports and annual financial report. 2, all of the organization's major cost centers will be reported in the annual financial report, which will include A, human resources, including all compensation of its founder and contractors and any potential future employees. Infrastructure and operations, e.g. website, hosting, domain registration, voter engagement platform, email hosting, etc. C, promotional activities, video production, merchandise, and swag for giveaways, events, etc. Like, it seems like they are really prepping themselves for a big wave of activity, and they're going to be just the perfect company to soak up all of this curiosity and tell people where to go and how to say it. And, you know, all it's really going to do is just boast a huge military budget that's already boasted enough. And yeah, I don't think it's going to go to anything that's going to be super useful for everyday Americans.
Well, somebody's going to make a lot of money, though, so there's that.
Oh, yeah. No, there's going to be a handful of people.
Praise the cash, bitches. I'm calling myself a UAP transparency advocate. I'm going to start a website. I know how to make a website.
Yeah, let's start a website. We'll call it giveusuap.com.
Give us UAP cash.
Yeah.
I bet you that's open. I'm going to give you UAP cash. Yeah, and when I see just another organization, I'm like, how many of these do we need? We've got Americans for Safe Aerospace. We've got the Galileo Project. Everybody's trying to get some UFO dollars, man.
Yep.
We're both missing out. We ought to start a nonprofit, right? We're like, we'll have UFO parties, you know?
Yeah, or just start a straight up for profit and tell the government, hey, we could figure out this UAP problem for you. We got just as much equipment.
I would just hire Mick West and just make him the principal investigator of all. Could you imagine if they just gave him all the data? He would be like, if I was running Arrow or any government, the first thing I would do, first of all, they nicked his debunk in hearings. They they basically saw his debunk, and then they had their own mathematicians work it out and go, God damn, this video game guy's good. He's right. Let's say that.
The trigonometry was correct. You know, like, it's like, dude, it's I anytime someone's like, oh man, new video coming out, or oh, I'm gonna drop this thing, I'd be like, bro, show Mick Wex first before you do anything. Like, I would show him first before you publicly put it out there, so that way you don't look like an idiot.
That guy that was posting like 3-year-old videos, and he was saying he had a secret source and he had to get clearance to release them, and people like, and then he puts it out and like, that was debunked 3 years ago by Mick Wex. Yeah. It's just some of this stuff is so stupid. And what did you think of the Grush, who I think is Lou Elizondo 2.0, but what did you think of this ridiculous excuse? Like, first it was they wouldn't let him in the skiff. Then it is, okay, we're going to let him in the skiff. Well, I don't got bus fare, man. Or plane fare or whatever.
Yeah. Has anybody considered that?
Disclosure is canceled, Lu Angeles, because he didn't have plane fare and hotel money. It's Disclosure's canceled.
Yeah, it's over. Because Disclosure's over because we can't get a plane ticket and an Uber and a hotel. Yeah, man, it's hilarious. It writes itself, dude. It's a script, you know, and I keep saying that, and one day it'll manifest, I promise you. But like, it's so silly, man, how these guys have taken this story this far with no information.
I was amazed
with no data
they made off of Grush with no evidence. And tomorrow, after midnight tonight, it will be 150 days since Dave Grush made his original claims. I've been counting. You know, and then other people are now too. Since I started, people are posting like one guy he posts every day like 148 days, and then it's something funny and like. Yeah. But if you look, I'm a little bit OCD, so I'm crazy. I went up and added all the monetized YouTube views from like News Nation, Ross Coulthart, Jeremy Corbell, the Yes Theory guy, and the other guy, and like it's a lot of money, Lou. Like it's a lot, and the fact that they were able to generate like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in ad revenue from a story that has zero evidence. None. There's no evidence whatsoever. There's excuses. First, they wouldn't let him in the skiff. It's all classified. And then the thing is, the DOD released him to talk about that stuff. It can't be classified. So that excuse falls apart. Then we get they wouldn't let him in the skiff excuse. Now they would let him in the skiff. He's got new excuses.
Could it be the reason why they wouldn't let him in the skiff is because he failed the security check?
Or the background check. Yeah, they do some kind of background check.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only reason they wouldn't let you in there. You weren't cleared to be in that classified setting.
Well, now they were going to let him in, but he needed plane fare. And then he said that's not accurate. But I don't know why a senator would say, we try to get him, and he needed us to pay for his plane fare. Like, why would she just make that up? That makes no sense.
What I found funny was he was like, hey, the House is going to hold a hearing or get into a skiff with Dave Grush. So he's like, oh, really? I'd like to go to that. Like, she had no clue. She had no clue it was going on. And so it was just so funny. Like, that's what I found funny. It was just like, yeah, she had no clue. And then she's like, yeah, I'd love to get him, to come here. I mean, we could talk on the phone, but he can't tell me anything classified over the phone, and apparently he needs a plane ticket and a hotel. And we don't have it in the budget. It was just like, what the fuck is going on? You don't have it in the budget?
You don't have a plane ticket and a hotel. Yeah, let him sleep in your office and you take the bus. Walk there, Mr. Disclosure.
Right? Of the Aero office budget, to get witnesses to skiffs. The reason why they didn't give him money, probably, I bet they do have a budget for that. I bet they do. But his stories aren't checking out. His stories aren't checking out behind the scenes. Even
I agree.
Senator or Congressman Tim Burchett said the other day that his staffers warned them about
that he's not a reliable witness. Quote,
yeah, that he's not a reliable witness.
And I know that because I talked to some of those staffers. I called every day for a long time, and eventually I got one chatty Cathy. And I said, did you hear the 11 hours of testimony? And he said, well, I heard most of it. And I said, and what did you tell the senator after hearing that? He said, I told him he was not a reliable witness. And then I said, can you elaborate on that? He wouldn't give any details because I guess they're all concerned. Maybe he did say something classified in there and I can't repeat it or I'll get in trouble. But it's great that his own staffers say he's not a reliable witness. And meanwhile, all the disclosure dorks got their disclosure boner so hard, and they don't hear this. None of this matters. It's like I said, there's this alternate reality that this is a hero of disclosure, and everything he's saying is true. Yeah. But behind the scenes, it's falling apart. Now there's this excuse. I love it. Disclosure is canceled because we don't have plane fare.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, Cosmic Judas's little video that he made with
he does great stuff
with Grush and the whole plane ticket, and he went and Googled the plane ticket, how much it cost, the the hotel for the night, and the Uber to Capitol Hill, and from the airport it was $584, something like that.
Disclosure is canceled for lack of $584. But meanwhile, everybody covering the Grush story, if you collect them all together, made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars off of his story. But when it comes time to put up the goods, we don't got $580. Don't you think that News Nation, if he really had evidence or anything, would pay him to go and then interview him about it or something? But they're not. There's a reason they're not. Yeah. This guy's got nothing. He's got Eric Davis stories and output off stories. And I know for a fact he's repeating Gary Nolan science talking points. I know for a fact.
Yes.
So maybe all these people he says he interviewed were all just UFO wackadoos.
I think so.
Theory.
I think he's talking to Kit Green. I think when he says things like that, he means Kit Green, Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, her husband. I can't remember his name.
UFO wackadoos. And Eric Davis said we had non-human craft 3+ years ago. No proof for 3+ years that that's an accurate statement, but but again, there's two realities in the UFO believer reality. Oh no, those weren't the people. Everybody that I talked to, they all deny that those are the people that Grush was talking to. But there has to be a reason that people listen to him and then say, "Oh, this guy's not a reliable witness." There has to be some reason that they're saying.
Well,
that,
there's a reason why the Washington Post was like, "No, thank you." Like, like we're not gonna be rushed to publish this story when we don't have the facts. Sorry, we're not gonna do that. Like, I don't understand why people can't step back and be like, look, if this was game-changing, life-changing, world-changing news, this guy would have a team of publicists that would have lined up the best, most prestigious interviews on the planet that you could possibly get. They would not be going to Yes Theory and News Nation and, Jesse Michaels. They would not be going that route whatsoever. They would be doing it a lot differently. And like one of my buddy Charlie Parrish the other day said, like whether you like Anjali or not, at least she went to Capitol Hill and publicly said, like, how cool would it have been if Dave Grush went to Capitol Hill with all 40 witnesses and said, "Hey, we're here to announce."
Stood there in front of the Lincoln Memorial. That would have been something. Yeah, that
would have been something. You know what I'm saying? And that would be a little bit more difficult to sort of downplay. That would be a little bit more difficult to say, "Hey, like, this is all bullshit."
Yeah, like, that's what they should do. When people use that term, break the dam, that's what you need to break the dam. You need real witnesses with real evidence, with corroboration, with paperwork, with documents, and get them all in one place and drop them. Like the real way that like Stephen Greer pretends to do it, but do it Yeah, you're right. At least Anjali had balls to stand up there and say that stuff. You know, it all turned out to be nonsense, but
it was all garbage. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about her today, man. What a just interesting resume.
I'm telling you, I want to make the movie someday.
She's got an interesting resume, man. Like
Defense Intelligence Agency, and I dug Intelligence
Agency
twice. She worked for them twice. She worked for them once as direct employee, and then she left to go do something else for a while. And whatever she was doing was so valuable that they hired her as a consultant and a contractor to do it again. So, and you know what she did? She did information warfare. That was her specialty. I was blown away when I heard this because I go, here's another intelligence agent that's coming into the UFO community and shaking all this stuff up. And remember, when she started, she had this monstrous following almost overnight.
Yeah.
Almost overnight,
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Well, and it was, it's just so funny, man. She's so funny. She also wrote erotic novels, and she was into, I believe, some kind of production. She was an actress as well. I saw one of her independent films.
She was in a dentist commercial too.
Yeah. Oh, that was rough. That independent film was rough. But yeah, I mean, the whole, her interview on your show was hilarious. But then the interview with the guy, the ranch handler, the guy who owned the ranch,
the Wayne guy,
Wayne guy.
That was a miracle, dude. That was don't F with cats, dude. We all got together and we found that guy. I couldn't believe it when I first talked to him on the phone. I'm like, and he knew enough of the inside scoop of the story that I knew right away this was the guy, and I was just blown away. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we found this guy. And then I go, and he was so pissed because she's talking all this smack on the internet and she's bringing scientists to his house and she didn't even talk to him about it.
Yeah.
So he was pissed and wanted to tell his story. I'm like, I'll do it. Come on. And that was
and it was funny. I loved what he's like. Yeah, we all smoked a really high concentration of marijuana, did a ton of drugs and drank like fish. And I was like, oh, no
Rick
wonder why she's called aliens in caves.
Yeah, Rick Simpson oil can cause hallucinations. It's super powerful THC oil. And he said on my show, he's like, oh, I dosed her up. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I think it's kind of funny to give people a huge dose. I do it all the time. And I was like, oh my God. And then at first she said I wasn't on any drugs at all.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, I was on an antidepressant. I was on a sleep medication. I was on anti-anxiety med. Oh, and the Rick Simpson oil. I was like, no wonder you're seeing aliens, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a shit show, man. It's a shit show. Once you dig past the surface, you really start finding all of these weird little things about all these people. And and thank God you interviewed that guy. Like it wouldn't, like, if you had never found that guy, she would still be pushing this stuff as hard as she was at the beginning. And she would not, her credibility would be so much higher if that guy was never found and you never had her on the show. Like,
because
without a doubt.
Yeah. And then, do you know, to this day, Lou, I still get shit from people. They go, well, you platformed Anjali. I'm like, no, we investigated everything she said.
The shit out of her.
And we brought her here, and then we gave you the truth of her story. I'm proud of that work. I'm never going to like, oh, you hosted her and she's fake. I'm like, asshole, you know she's fake because of me.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I'll
be honest with you. At first, I was like, dude, why? It just seems like, at first, I was like, it's a slam. She's obviously lying. Like, to me, that was just obvious, right?
But people need to see
why waste the time, right? But then I saw the interview. I was like, no, that was hilarious. It was funny, and it shows how kind of kooky she is. And then you got the guy who owned the ranch to come on the show. I was like, yeah, I dosed that chick up big time on some hallucinogenic THC. Like, it's just like, dude, this stuff writes itself. I keep saying it, but it's true. Like, it's a wealth of content. It's a good thing that you did that. It's a good thing that you did.
I don't know what she's trying to do, but she's still trying. And I saw Calling All Beings show, I think. And she sat there and she tells her original story as if it's not been busted to shit, and they all just sit there and nod,
eat it up. Yeah, they just love it. Wow, you're so amazing.
Feed me more stuff to give me a disclosure boner. Like, it's so stupid. Yeah,
it was. I don't know how some people are like. Yeah, I don't want to call out names, whatever. Everybody knows who's on that show. And it's just like they pretend to be these intellectuals while nursing and propagating bullshit. And it's just like, dude, you're such a fake. You're such a fake. You're such a poser. We can see right through you. And by the way, nobody's watching. Nobody is watching that interview because everybody knows that it's going to be self-serving, ass-licking bullshit. Like, nobody's watching Calling All Beings. Why? Because the show sucks, number one.
Yeah,
like,
I only watched
the host
it because
DJ.
I wanted to see what she
yells,
said. That guy is
yells at the top of his lungs every time he introduces somebody like it's a WWF match. And the questions are terrible, and it's always got an audience of 11. Like it's just so stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. They just redid the algorithms for recommends, and everybody's views are going to shit right now. So it could be, but his show just sucks, so nobody watches it. That's not.
That's not an algorithm thing. It's always just been that way.
Yeah, and also I think I see this every year. I think right about now everybody's going outside and trying to get the last bit of like outdoor stuff in before they're stuck in the house for the winter, at least on the East Coast,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're like, God damn it, all these people are away from their computers. That's not good for me.
Right.
But I'm in the same boat. I'm out in the cabin trying to get like firewood done. Because if I don't get enough done, I have anxiety attacks all winter, like, shit, it's so cold here. Like, it gets to be like -10 there, and you got to have that. You got to have a shit ton of firewood when it's -10,
Yeah, I don't miss that cold. That's the one thing I don't miss,
Yeah, and you, how are you doing with the comedy and acting thing? I wanted to talk to you about that because you don't really share very much about that.
Well, no. Primarily because I just don't want some fucking psychopath showing up at my show.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of
You know,
that.
like
Yeah.
that's really why I don't like announce too many of my accomplishments or things that I'm doing on there. Every once in a while I will, but like I'll save that stuff for my Instagram or something. Where just the people on Instagram I actually know.
I was going to say, now they know where to stalk you at. Great
Yeah,
job.
no, for sure. No,
Great job, dude.
I don't usually accept friendships anymore. Like I'm very selective with who I follow and who I let follow me on Instagram anyway. On Twitter, I don't really care. But
Yeah, Patty says true believers want their UFO fantasies fulfilled. And that's what I think a lot of these people are like crack dealers for these people, right? It's like they got to get their hit from somewhere. But the level of delusion, that's what bothers me sometimes. It's like Ross Coulthard is a perfect example. Like people are championing him, like, oh, you're such a great, investigative. Like you got caught selling 4 or 5 now completely and totally fake stories. Why are we putting you on a pedestal again? Like,
I don't know. And also just the most egregious thing of like, oh, you're the gatekeeper of disclosure.
yeah.
Like out of everything, like that should piss off the UFO community. The idea that he's keeping the secret of a location of a ship so big it can't be moved.
I thought that was so ridiculous. It's so big,
Like,
you can't move it. And by the way, I'm sure now I've found several references to Ross Coulthard repeating stories that Stephen Greer told a few months before he told them. So what we have is this closed loop of bullshit going on. And he's like, I have a great anonymous source. What he doesn't tell you is his anonymous sources listening to Stephen Greer BS and repeating it. It's so stupid. That's what the giant spaceship. Greer talked about that a month before he did.
Yeah, well, I remember doing for the Big Phone Home too. I remember trying to push, this idea of, because Lou Elizondo at the time hated Greer's false flag narrative that he was pushing, like the idea that the government is going to attack American citizens with UFOs, and so I was like trying to sort of, put sort of that messaging into the phone home just to make people aware of like, this is just silly, right? And like Sean Cahill hated him, Lou Elizondo hated him, and now Cahill, Greer, and who's the third guy? They all appeared on News Nation together, and I think was it Ross Coulthard?
Oh, that's funny. I didn't see that one. Yeah, I haven't been watching. And for those unaware, News Nation is now the United States UFO channel. I mean, they do other news, but they spend a lot of time. It's
a ratings boost for sure. I mean, that like they've already covered that. Like that's a big bread and butter item for them where they could talk on it on all of their shows and have a segment about it, and they're okay with being the UFO network, like news network, like that you can rely on to cover this seriously, even though all of the sources that they use are pure bullshit. George Knapp, Ross Coulthard, Jeremy Corbell, like all of the worst sources that you could possibly listen to on this. Like, I don't know why they don't question the shit out of Grush's claims about aliens killing American citizens.
I know that would seem to be a big sensational. Yeah, well, let's stop for a minute and let's talk about this one thing that you said.
Yeah.
He basically said listen, for those unaware, David Grush is giving us disclosure about very important things like space monster aliens killing American citizens. And nobody stop. You're right. When you stop and say like, well, hold on here, you got to break this shit down. We gotta dig into this one claim a little bit, like where, because it's so easy to debunk. Like, give me their names. We'll go look it up. We'll get the autopsy reports.
Well, I'm sure that's what the Washington Post was saying too. But they were like, nope, sorry, I can't do it, man. Classified. So then they're like, okay, well, we'll give it to the debrief, and the debrief's like, awesome, bro. We'll publish that shit right away.
Shit. Yeah. We'll run with this.
I mean, did you see our warp drives article? Holy shit, man! Like this is no problem, and it was so funny because Tim McMillan, it just bugged the shit out of me. I was like, like. he was claiming that all of these people like Kirkpatrick and all of these guys were making such a mess out of this situation. I'm like, you're the one who just made the biggest mess out of all. You just threw this guy into the middle of this discussion without verifying any of his claims whatsoever.
Yeah.
And now it's a bigger mess than it ever was before because of you, Tim McMillan, and the debrief. Like, you guys created this fucking confusion pie. Now everybody doesn't know what the hell was going on, except for rational, clear-minded, non-emotional people who could step back and look at this clearly and go, oh yeah, this is all bullshit. Like, if this was real, again, like he would have
even Joe Rogan is calling bullshit on Grush pretty much. He's like, he didn't have any evidence, or like,
no. I just love how he's so nonchalant. I like in that Jesse Michaels interview on 3 different occasions, he set himself up to be wrong. He's like, if I fell for this information, and
if it's a CIA psyop,
like, I guess I messed up. Like
Forrest
whoopsies. Like he's already.
I might have fell for the psyop.
Yeah.
Life is a box of chocolates.
Oopsie doopsie.
Like a goober too. Like,
no, he's a total goonball, and like it's like he's setting the table for the failure. Just like Ross Coulthart. If you really pay attention to what Ross Coulthart says, he really sets the table for. This is our shit. This is our tech. Like, when he talks about the Tic Tac and how it could be ours, like, they always do this. They give you little truths while giving you 10 lies. They give you 10 lies with one little truth. And you just got to be able to decipher like what they're really saying, man. Like, you really got to pay attention and listen to it over and over and over again.
That's something a lot of them do. They'll throw out one factual, real piece of information, and then they pile all their fake nonsense on top of it. And somehow to them, because they started with a real fact, somehow it's real.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's almost like, like when I asked the community to FOIA Jeremy Corbell's claim that Bob Lazar was, making
government contracts,
government naval contracts with the Naval Academy, that clean out ball bearings in the hovercraft. And then when you FOIA that, nothing comes up whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, hey, nothing came up with any naval contract at any level whatsoever when it comes to Bob Lazar, United Nuclear, or any sort of patent or contract. What's like on any level, let alone Naval Academy. He doesn't have any contracts with any part of the military, and nothing but crickets.
Yeah, and likewise, just exactly like that. I think it's like a fun thing to do to fact check some of these clowns.
Yes.
So like, I didn't do this one. A man named David Spacchiavecchia did it, an Italian researcher, and he's sending me everything. It's so funny. David Wilcox, Shady Aerospace Company, is posting that they have all these wind tunnel contracts with like Los Alamos National Labs and the Air Force and all these military organizations, and they put it on their website that they had all these wind tunnel contracts. So he FOIA'd it all. They got nothing. None of that is real. It just doesn't. And then they took it off their website, I think. And just like Jeremy Corbell won't address that, neither will David Wilcox. And David Wilcox, Shady Aerospace Company, they got sued for being an investment scam and a Ponzi scheme. And in those court documents, they admit that their only income is a few $1,000s a month from a garbage company. A dumpster company is renting their airplane hangar and storing dumpsters in there. Like, so there's two worlds here. There's this alternate reality. Oh, aren't we so cool? We have an aerospace company. We're going to build hover cars. And then you open up the hangar, and the reality is it's filled with dumpsters. It's like there's garbage in there. There's like rotten tomatoes at the bottom of all these dumpsters. You never get all that garbage juice out.
Speaking of scams, I'm curious to get your thoughts because I did a breakdown of the Tom DeLonge movie, The Monsters of California.
Oh, it was wonderful. Wasn't that a wonderful movie?
Man, it was so
Oh, and
bad.
by the way, listen, I won't toot my own horn. I will say I've been in a couple of indie films, right?
Yeah.
And you've been in like real Hollywood films, like big budget stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so if we're gonna dog on his movie, like we're not just assholes that don't like.
No,
we've been
no,
in films. We know
Well,
what it
I
takes
mean,
to
go-
make one, and you know.
I mean, go watch my review. I don't dog on all aspects of the film. There are some aspects of it that I really love, but the one thing that we've in researching the film, like it was a $48 million picture and a budget,
I
which
don't see
means
that.
that
Do you see that on the screen?
nowhere. Well, here's the thing that's crazier is if you know anything about Hollywood movies, if your movie costs $42 million to make, you double that for the advertising of it. So that means it's an $84 million movie.
Wow.
And when you put that number on that film, that's when it
it's horrific compared to 84. I thought it was horrific at 42 because
42, it's lucky if it's a $15 million film. That's like pushing.
I don't even think it was that much, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
but, you know, I'm big on like practical effects and doing things like on the cheap. So because that's the way I've always had to do things. If I do stuff myself, I couldn't imagine having that kind of budget, but it didn't look like that kind of a budget, you know.
No.
And the actors were. I'll say this: the actors, I thought some of them did a good job with the script.
There were 3 actors in it that I thought were, I think, going to be. One of which I think is wouldn't shock me, became a really big star. No, there was some good young talent on there, but like the main character that was his first movie, first anything. He hadn't done commercials, he hadn't done anything. I think he was just a friend of DeLonge. And it's also funny too, when you look at the credits of the film, Tom DeLonge directed it, which means he got paid as a director. He produced it, which means he gets paid as a producer. He wrote the music and he composed it, which means he got paid on that as well.
And he gets paid on the back end for the royalties from every play of the movie. Yeah.
The selling of the film to Amazon and iTunes and all of those things, like he gets a cut of those things.
And for those unaware, just to make sure that we're clear, TTSA collected all this money and they were supposed to build a spaceship, and instead Tom DeLonge made this shitty movie and paid himself out the wazoo every way he could. I'm surprised he wasn't like the doing the editing and stuff, or like editing consultant or something to get another paycheck.
Here's the thing. I randomly played golf with a guy who was in that movie, and when they first announced that film, like shortly after they announced TTSA, they announced that film in the trades that they was getting made, and I played golf with a guy that had already shot scenes. So this was like 2018,
coincidence,
like summer 2018-ish, somewhere
they
around
filmed
there.
this a while ago. It took a long time to make this.
Which tells me that they first filmed something, scrapped it, and then did reshoots. So then it's even more expensive. And that's probably why the special effects sucked so hard, because they had
that was the weakest point. I thought the special effects were awesome.
So like Monsters of California, and you only had 2 monsters, I think.
and they were hokey.
And they were shit. Really, really bad. No, wait, 3 monsters. They had a monster at the end, but it was like a ghost CGI smoke thing.
Yeah, and even Lou Elizondo was pissed off about this movie because apparently, like Tom DeLonge,
they tanked them in the credits.
Did they? Oh well, Tom DeLonge took all the money from TTSA and decided to make this movie, and then that left. I've heard more than Elizondo pissed off. That's why left, because they're like, we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z with this money, and now you're making a movie, and you know.
Well, here's the thing: is I think they lost their ass on this movie big time. But I think Tom DeLonge lost a lot of money, and that's why he directed it. That's why he produced it. That's why he wrote the music, because he couldn't afford to hire real directors, real cinematographers, real producers, because he pissed away all the money in a stupid, frivolous way, and he scrambled and just did it himself. Like, I think the thing that really he shot himself in the foot with was making the movie rated R. Because if he had made it PG-13, I think you would have made it a lot more wide of an audience to get more views and more clicks. If you appealed to kids, teenage kids, you know, make it like Stranger Things kind of kind of vibe. There was so many curse words in that movie. Even I was like,
yeah, I noticed that too.
This
Yeah.
is like, I feel like I'm just listening to the members of Blink 182 have a conversation about ghosts and goblins the whole movie. That's all I thought about.
That's pretty much what it was.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of F-bombs and stuff that seemed unnecessary or thrown in, or like, it's kind of weird. I will say this though, I will always respect somebody that like has a vision or a dream of doing something like that and go and do it. But when you collect money from the public, telling them you're going to build a spaceship, and then you take all the money and you go do this, it would be like me collecting, what if I collected money, or I said like, oh, for the next 3 months, every super chat is going to go to, like, I'm going to go do field UFO investigations with that money. Yeah. And then I just blew it all on an expensive studio time and made an album out of it. Like, oh, sorry, I needed the money for that. Like,
it's similar to that. I would say it's even more extreme. Like, it would be like me, like, starting a GoFundMe because I have cancer, or
it's pretty much that bad.
I collect all this money, and then 4 months later, I'm like, man, I got cured of cancer. Thank you guys so much. Really, I never had cancer. I just pocketed the money and bought a new boat.
There's people who have done that. That one guy, UFO Proof, he worked for Third Phase of Moon. He faked brain cancer. And then the whole community, I talked to a bunch of them, the whole community where he lived, they had this big event. And then all these businesses gave gift certificates, like $150 gift certificate to a restaurant and stuff. Yeah. So not only did he fake cancer and he kept thousands of dollars they gave him for his cancer treatment, he stole gift certificates from his own, because they were dummy cards. They caught him because they were dummy cards. They didn't have any money on the cards. People have done that stuff. It's crazy.
No, I know. It's wild. It's wild, man. But like, that's these are the people we're calling out, and yet we're the bad guys.
Did you get enough of that yet? What does it feel like to go to that level of villainy after being sort of celebrated? Because I didn't get the celebrated part. I went right to the villain, but I skipped that part.
I nowadays I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. I'm really, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I can't tell anybody about, that I am taking this very unfortunate situation and turning it into a super positive, constructive thing. Like, if people really paid attention to how much work and effort I put into something like the Big Phone Home, imagine what I would do with a major motion picture.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would like to see that, actually. And I'm happy for you. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And it's good to funnel that kind of stuff into something instead of just, because it can get negative on you real quick,
For sure. And it's I'm just happy that at the time it was really hard, it was really rough, it sucked, it just sucked, but now, literally a year later, it's been a year since all this shit has gone down.
Oh wow. And it seems like longer than that to me.
Seems longer than that. I know. Me too.
It's been a long year.
But it's been a long year, man. It's been a long year. So it's it's finally coming around. I feel like people are finally starting to really understand what happened and what went down, and they see how people like that UFO podcast and Andy McGrillen, and in particular Dan Zetterstrom, Dan Zetterstrom in particular, how he doxed Rather. I think that showed people a really ugly side to those guys.
Absolutely.
I think
unfortunately though, a lot of the people just ignore that kind of stuff because they need that disclosure boner so bad that they're going to ignore whatever. It's like the same thing as like people that constantly listen to Linda Moulton Howe, or some of these people are like, how can you do this? They're caught selling fake shit all the time. oh, at least she's trying, or they make excuses. A lot of people I saw make excuses for what happened there, and I was like, there is no excuse for this. There's no excuse for this.
None.
You know,
none. There is no excuse. You're absolutely right, man. It's like truth. If you're telling the truth, you should be afraid of nothing. Of nothing.
Yeah.
It should stand up to everything. Any scrutiny, any sort of criticisms, it should be able to stand up. Like the fact that a Stanford professor has named me an enemy is insane. Like that a Stanford professor can't sit down with me and intellectually make me look like an idiot. I welcome you to come on this show and make me. If I'm so
I've invited. We're talking about Gary Nolan, right? I've tried him several times.
Like if we're so, but I mean, when he calls me out by name, and how I'm this destructive person in the community. It's like, dude, you block everyone that simply asks you questions, or sometimes they don't even get to interact with you. You just see them ask another person a question that you don't like. And you're in the connections to the people around you are really just questionable. There's a lot of red flags around you, buddy. But it's just funny, man. Like, how they can't intellectually
I like
argue their point to an actor from Hollywood.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I sent him a respectful email asking him how him profiting from using the Stanford University labs and equipment in UFO documentaries he's paid to be in is not a violation of their ethics code. Because he must have like students or something that doesn't like him, because somebody randomly sent me the Stanford University ethics code, and they asked me, "Can you ask why is he allowed to do this?" And then I sent a message back like, "What do you mean?" And then I read the ethics. He's not allowed to personally profit from the use of university labs, equipment, or personnel. So I sent him a message asking him how this is okay with, aren't you violating the ethics code? And he says, the multiple premises you make throughout even these questions below are so faulty that they merit no answer. I wish you the best in your endeavors. From here, you will get no more replies from me. And then, there was another one. I'm sorry. I borked that one. There's another one where he says, Mr. Cambian, I don't understand why you think, given your unnecessarily aggressive stance, that I should help you foment more conspiracy theories around me. I do wish you the best in your endeavors. No, he doesn't. And why can't he just answer the question? Is it an ethics violation what you're doing? We're not,
Right. It's a simple no, it's not. And I don't owe you an explanation why. Like, who are you? I would take that.
I would take that. If he simply said yes, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not, and I'm not going to explain it to you.
Right. Or even if it's simple as like, no, it's not, and here's why.
Because my premise really is that he basically rents his perceived credibility to UFO hucksters to help them sell their shit. So like if you got a UFO project and you want like labs, hey, come and film it at Stanford, and then they pay him for that. But he's not, I think he's not supposed to do that, but I can't get any answers out of him. And I was going to follow up with the school, but I just thought, what are they're going to defend him. He's a tenured professor. They're not going to want to admit that he's renting the school credibility to a bunch of UFO grifters, because he's done it multiple times. The balls, remember the balls? How long's it been since that? We're supposed to get the ball shavings analysis.
Yeah, and then he gets angry when people ask him, "Hey, where are the ball shavings?" He gets so angry. Like he gets so angry at us. It's just I
still have that clip that Cosmic Judas did that, where they made them like the Joker, and he's just bitching about what I'm not your daddy. I'm not here to do things for you. You're the one that said you had conclusive proof of alien technology. We just want to see it, Mr. Science Guy.
Dude, there are so many ideas that we have brewing behind the scenes.
And then don't you think it's funny that this guy is an immunologist? So like that's not how science works. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I only know computer science and I worked in Drexel Robotics Lab. But one thing I know is like if we needed an analysis of a metal part or something, we wouldn't go to an immunologist.
Would not go to
college. We would go to a metallurgist or you know somebody qualified to But he's going to tell us that this is alien metal somehow.
Yeah, I love how an immunologist is talking to us about different cortexes in the brain and schizophrenia and all of these other things.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, dude, just stick to curing cancer, you know? Like, that's what you're good at. Like, I don't know why you're fraying off into all of these other things and then calling people like me the enemy. Like, dude, you're a Stanford professor, man. Like,
could you imagine that like Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you sent him an email a few times, it'd probably take 3 or 4 times to get it through to him or whatever. But if you happen to have his direct email and you asked him a question about something that he had said on the internet, could you imagine him like deciding you're the enemy or, you know,
well,
like
tweeting about
at you,
like tweeting about it. You know what I'm saying? Like telling his entire following that are fervent maniacs, this guy is the enemy. Like that's dangerous, dude. Like you're you're the Stanford professor. It's not like I'm attacking his family, I'm attacking his sexual orientation or his looks or his, you know, religious beliefs. I'm just questioning his bullshit. You know, like that's it.
Yeah, you should be able to get. You should be able to do that.
And
you should totally be able to do that.
Guy, like I'm not the enemy, Gary Nolan. Get a grip. You're the Stanford professor. Like, I just keep going back to that. Like, this is Stanford, man.
I know. That's what I thought about. Like, especially like if somebody was I basically accused him of ethics violations in my email, you know, and I gave him the clips with the timestamps that showed the Stanford labs. And then I screenshot it where it says that you can't use university labs or equipment for personal profit, and I sent him that, like, you know, and I said, I just want to give you an opportunity to tell your side of the story before I run this story. And I gave him, you know, no, you're starting conspiracy theories. Like, I would think, especially when it comes to ethics, you could answer a yes or no question. Like, are you violating these ethics? No. You can't do it.
Yeah, well, when the answer is anything outside of no, and that's why, you know, we had a hard time for a long time asking Lou the sock puppet question, because anything outside of no
is going to be a problem.
If anything comes before it, like, well, that's an interesting question. Let me explain. If you hear any shit like that before no, there's a problem. There's a problem. And
Bob Water calls him the block door. He blocks everybody.
Can't ask
a question. That's, you know what I always say, like, if your position is so piss poor and weak that it cannot withstand any questioning or debate,
well, especially
that says everything, you know?
Like a failed actor. Like you can't answer my questions.
Yeah, I love when they call you a failed actor. I'm like, bitch, have you seen his IMDb? Because mine is like a disconnected mess. Like, I don't know how, but somehow every project I was in couldn't get it on the same page. So I had like all these different
I had that problem.
I go, oh man. But if you look at yours and they go, like, he's been in Hollywood big budget movies. That's not a failed act. Oh, he didn't have a huge part. Then they come back with that or something. I'm like, bitch, how many small parts have you had in multi-million-dollar films?
Yeah.
You're not a failed actor. You know?
How many weeks did you work with Tom Hanks? Oh, that's none.
None. Yeah, exactly.
It's wild, dude. It's why I don't give a shit. Like, trust me when I tell you, I believe I'm gonna have the last laugh on that sooner than later. So
we're gonna try this. Lou and Steven could host a weekly UFO show and pretend to believe, and people would throw cash at them.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I want to do a show. I keep looking for ways to like ethically cover some things. Like sometimes people send me UFO videos, but then I go, dude, this is so grainy and shitty. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? And then they get mad at me. They're like,
Right.
you say that you can analyze this. And I go, well, what am I supposed to analyze? There's like 18 pixels in this video. Like,
yeah, right. Or if you say, hey, all right, fine, send me the metadata on it.
yeah.
And they're like, the what? Metadata? Oh, like that's all you got to do to get them to go away. Just be like, okay, cool. Do me a favor, send me the original source, and I'll take a look at it. I'll run it through my programs and try to get an answer for you. But I don't promise you nothing.
That's basically what I do. And then one time I asked
they
for
won't show up with
coordinates.
shit.
I asked for GPS coordinates because I thought that it was some kind of light off in the distance, like a radio tower or something. And I said, give me the GPS coordinates in general, just generally where you did this. Because I wanted to look on the map and see if I saw cell tower. No, can't do that. I can't. Yep. I'm not giving you the location. The CIA will find me, you know.
Later, like I can't help you, man. I can't help you. Yeah.
Have you heard anything about this Lou Elizondo book? Is that ever coming out, or was that just canceled?
The rumors I've heard, and could be wrong. I mean, he did make some sort of cryptic announcement the other day about next year. So maybe that's his book. But I have heard behind the scenes that the publishing company has caught up to the game, so to speak, and I think they've at least delayed it right now, if not.
Yeah, well, imagine if you're a publisher and you were sold on this book because he ran a $22 million Pentagon UFO program,
right?
And then you find out, he didn't run that. So who cares what like the only reason that him selling a book works is because of that. And if you pull that deception away from him, then it's just some slob that was, do you know what he really did? He looked at real estate. Some slob that went to the Pentagon. Yes, he didn't look at any UFO shit. He didn't do anything. And you know what he really did? Like, I talked to somebody that worked with him. Like, if a government office was getting too crowded, he would go and look at real estate and then approve or not approve of like purchasing or leasing that office space to expand different departments or start a new department. They need office space. That's what he really did for the Pentagon. Like, he was
that's the first time I've heard that. I didn't know
that's
that.
What he's real estate. That's what he was basically doing most of the day. Yeah. So I guess once in a while he would sit there. And, any office job, I've had a lot of them. They're all boring, and you look for things to kill the time. I had one job. I swear to God, I could do it in 1 hour a day. It was like a network admin job. Like, all right, I did the backup, and it's only 9 o'clock, and I got to sit here till 5. Like, and so I played video games, and I had a switcher. Like, when somebody came in, I could just hit one button and switch. But like, imagine how bored he was sitting at their Pentagon. So I'm sure that's what he did. He got his disclosure boner, and then he started looking stuff up, right?
Well, I'm sure. Well, I think he just also had buddies. Like, I think he was just buddies with Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis and Christopher Mellon, and they would talk about this shit, and they would, I think one of those guys got in his ear for sure. And started talking to him about it, and then maybe that, who knows, maybe that snowballed into some ideas for him and how he could take advantage of this situation. Because
I'm kind of surprised he's been away.
He's definitely up to no good.
He's been away for a while, though. I think that he's not like working the UFO circuit conferences or doing anything. So. He must have some kind of a day job or something else going on, because, the full-time grifters, they're going to grift. Like, they're going to be at the conferences. They're going to be doing online events for $50, and he hasn't done that for, long time.
He did go to Europe recently. And what I found funny was, he always talked about how he had to hide the images of his family because he was on an ISIS hit list, and then he goes to Europe, and all of a sudden he's has pictures of his daughter and her husband and his wife, and it's like no.
Yeah, and by the way, in Europe, the Muslim population is higher. Way higher, like double or triple. The population.
The odds of ISIS being there are a lot higher than they are in the United States.
Especially now, shit's going to pop off and get crazy soon, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to watch the news. It gives me anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
And then I start,
been watching.
You know what I do? I prep. I go, all right, well, we got to load that apocalypse cabin up because shit can pop off, you know?
Yeah.
Have you given any thought to like, you used to, or you were gonna like be doing a lot more reviews, but it seems to me like you are focusing on sort of UFO topic when you do most of your shows now.
Yeah, yeah, man. I just kind of, you know what it was? It's just I felt really guilty, reviewing games and films and stuff because it's difficult to just start the channel over with that stuff.
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
all of the regulars are like, man, we want you to talk about UFOs. We want to talk about UFOs. I was like, I fought it for a little bit, but I also just felt guilty, like sitting there playing video games for 3 hours when I could be writing, I could be acting, I could be,
yeah,
money,
no, I know exactly how you feel. Yeah, I know
like
exactly how you feel.
I felt really guilty with that. I was just like, I don't want to get stuck playing video games for 8 hours a day. Like, I just don't want to do that.
Suck you in, right? It's just like UFOs, though. It's like this alternate reality, and reality sucks. So, like, I haven't played games in years since like Xbox 360, and then I got my son a PlayStation, and I got sucked into that Star Wars game, and I couldn't stop until I got to the end, and like I got shit to do. I ain't got 8 hours for this shit today, you know?
Yeah. No, it's they can suck you in there, man. So yeah, it's that's kind of why I think I stopped doing that kind of stuff and just kind of like, I'm still paying attention to the community. I still, I bookmark all the things that I want to talk about. I just try to do a sort of like weekly review show almost a little bit. Sometimes I'll do 2 shows in a week, depending on if something funny happens or, some big news.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat sometimes. Just like
breaks
sitting
the
here,
hearts
like,
of all of these believers.
I'm just waiting for the big story. And then I go, oh, there's nothing going on. So we'll do something else tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, so
but you pay that swerve tax too. At least that's what I call it. Like everybody's coming to you or me for UFO and conspiracy land stuff, and when you go off into another topic, a lot of the audience will indulge you because people are here to see you. A lot of people are just here to see you. They don't care what you talk about. But a lot of people, no, they don't want. They're like, oh, this isn't UFOs.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. And you do like a third or a half of the views that you would usually do.
Yeah. Well, I also just like I'm having fun with it again, which is cool. Like I get to have fun with it again. I still get to be passionate about it. And it's not as stressful as it was a year ago. And like I said, a lot of people are coming around, like I feel like I think we do have a lot of people's attention, and I think we do help a lot of people cross that Rubicon.
Just having somebody tell you it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah. And actually see them do it, actually put their money where their mouth is, I think is also helpful. Being as genuine as you can. And I think, if there's one thing we both do very well is I don't think we're presenting any fake versions of ourselves. We are who we kind of see.
No, that's a good thing. I think people respond to that more than some fake persona.
Yeah, I think so. And that's the thing with this. Like, it was so funny, and when I look at that declassified UAP and the bragging of building Ryan Sprague's channel or website, like the other night he was talking to Diana Pasulka, and they were literally just warning themselves about themselves. Like Diana Pasulka was like, they're going to approach you, they're going to offer you things, and here you go. You've got declassified UAP building your website. Like you're on the debrief. You're doing television shows. Like everybody's pumping up your bullshit. Like you're like everything that Diana Pasulka said that she warned you about. You are literally doing. And it's the same thing with Diana Pasulka. Like she's got her wares to sell as well, and it's always.
So she's getting booked in that. She's getting booked in that Encounters series, and that's right bucks because People don't know this. There's a lot of money in that series. It's Steven Spielberg.
Dude,
It's
Netflix plays a lot. Well, at least they used to. We'll see what happens after the strike with SAG ends. But there's been a huge freeze on spending. At least as frivolous spending like they were before. But Netflix will used to pay big bucks just to develop ideas from really smart people like Spielberg. So yeah,
that's probably a smart way to go. Just use him for the idea man, and then get some grunts in there to do the work. Yeah,
you buy as many IPs as you can. You make the ones that intrigue you the most, and see what sticks, see what's popular. And I think it's a formula that works pretty well. But they do lose a lot of money. But yeah, I think that it's just funny though, because in that documentary, the witness of the aerial school sighting was like, yeah, man, I made it up. I was one of the oldest kids on the schoolyard, and I made up the whole thing. So like that whole series, as proud as she is about it, kind of shoots a hole right in the middle of the most popular UFO sighting in all of history.
Well, at least they let that in. Oh, I was going to ask you about the strike, because I wanted to ask your opinion. Because, I come from like a union family where, like, if you cross a picket line, like, you're a piece of shit. Like, my family, like, it's my family all works for the bus company in Philadelphia. Like, a lot of my family, my brother, my father, everybody but me got a job in there. But, that nobody would cross a picket line or especially hire scabs or okay. But like, we've seen some celebrities that have shows. I think Drew Barrymore, Bill Maher, and a few others just say, I can't not work anymore. Sorry, but not sorry. I'm going to return to production. Like, you're also a show host. So I was curious what your opinion of that situation is. Like, I myself wouldn't do it just because I would say I want to support those people and not I'll take the hit. But
self-promoted like podcasts and shows like this, that's not part of the union. Like those are things that have never fell under the union. So like I could still do a commercial right now if I wanted to. Okay. Because commercial is a different form. It doesn't count as it's commercials and films are completely different. So I could do a commercial, but I can't do a film right now because that would be considered crossing the picket line. You can do late night talk show hosts. You can do late night talk shows. You can do variety shows like Saturday Night Live or Dancing with the Stars. But you can't do anything scripted. So I think the way that Drew Barrymore and Bill Maher are getting away with it is that now they can hire writers. Now they have writers, and so they can write the segments, but the interviews themselves are they're not scripted for the actor or whoever they're interviewing. So that's, I think, how they're getting away with it. But the thing that pissed people off is that Drew Barrymore and Bill Maher were going to do their shows without the writers. Lucky for them, the writers strike ended almost a few days after they literally started crossing the picket line. Drew Barrymore is an actor. Bill Maher is a SAG actor. So that's why it was fucked up. But their excuse was, well, there's catering companies, there's grips, there's directors, there's producers. All of these people need to go back to work. All of these people are struggling to make ends meet because of these strikes. It doesn't just affect writers.
They kind of made it about other people's pockets.
Yes, but that was just a cop out. That was
it was about their own
dollars. It was about their own dollar, and it's so stupid because both of them are insanely rich. I would be shocked if Drew Barrymore makes close to $75,000-$80,000 per episode.
And her show's kind of cringe. I don't know. I watched it one time with
my
wife.
It's a talk show. No, it sucks. It sucks. It's Ricky Lake just with Drew Barrymore.
You know what I did see? I saw Bill Maher. I guess he's doing some kind of like podcast now.
Yeah.
Like just to have his house or
well, that's what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that I prefer to the other stuff that he did because it was just like real conversations with cool people. That was fun. But this other shit he does, I'm like, I could take that.
Yeah. Well, he's not. He's just not a very good writer anymore. I don't find him very funny much anymore. I've listened to his podcast, and I think if anything, it shows sort of who he really is. Kind of he's got a lot of double standards. He's a weird dude. Like he's such a weird dude. Like he's such an asshole. Like he doesn't have any family. He's not a dad. He doesn't have a very sympathetic or view of the world. Like he's very cynical. He's got no religion. He's just an asshole. He's just a real like obnoxious elitist. And I think that's what bothers me the most about him. So like when he crossed the picket line, I was like, nobody was shocked in this neighborhood, in this town. Like everybody was like, yep, that's Bill Maher, just being fucking Bill Maher, just being a dickhead. And that's why writers don't like working for him. That's why nobody likes working on his show. He's a dick. Like he's not fun.
I wasn't aware of the inside baseball and that kind of stuff.
He's not fun to work for. There's a couple guys in town, like James Corden was one of them, but thankfully he quit. There was there's like, I knew about Harvey Weinstein years before all that shit came out. Like I'd been hearing stuff about him for years. Yeah, dude, like there's so many people.
Yeah, and that concept of that was kind of shocking to me, because that concept of like the casting couch, you hear about that, but like I thought we were past that and over that.
I thought so too for a long time.
The fact that he got away with that shit. He had in his contract, like, if you get this many sexual harassment suits, you get fined this much. If you get this many, you get fined more. Like they knew that
it was written into his contract. No, it was absolutely batshit crazy. No, it was like I would hear the stories, but I would be like, nah, man, there's no way, man. Like, why? Why would he have to? Like, he's so rich, so powerful. Like,
and he had a hot wife to begin with, but I guess
oh my god,
always want more.
Beautiful. No, and that was the sickest part, is you hear the recordings of him, and he would use his wife and family. He'd be like, I swear on my wife and kids, I'm not going to touch you. Just sit next to me, for fuck's sake, please. And then as soon as they sat down, he would just start assaulting them. Like he was a sicko, dude.
Yeah, I had a friend that made indie films, and he made it a point that he had another female and somebody else with him. He never would meet with a potential actress by himself, because just to make the girl comfortable too. Like, like, oh, meet me in my hotel room. That's kind of shitty. Like,
I could tell you, when I was in New York City, I was working at the Soho Grand Hotel. And the Soho Grand Hotel, there's a Soho Grand, and then there's the Tribeca Grand. The Tribeca Grand is where they do the Tribeca Film Festival. Okay. It's got a theater in there, and it's a hotel as well. And right across the street is the Soho Grand Hotel. And every year, because every year at Tribeca, there was a Harvey Weinstein Miramax film. And this was early 2000s. This was 2004, 2005, 2006. And even in 2005, 2006, hotel rooms, small, tiny, fucking tiny hotel rooms were $600 a night in 2006. We had 2 penthouses in that hotel.
That's crazy. Because I remember I worked at Manhattan Arts Center a bunch of times doing live shows, and we never got a hotel. We just drove back, because we're in Philadelphia, so it's 2.5 hours.
It's not that far.
I just saw that. I wanted to, though, when we first got those gigs. I was like, oh, this will be cool. We'll spend the night, and then I started in Manhattan. I'm like, no, we're not paying that shit. Yeah, we're not blowing this check on the hotel that night,
for the nice boutique hotels. I mean, there you can get cheap hotels if you look in the right places, but this particular hotel was a boutique, very shishi, very, like celebrities came to this hotel, and I was working room service. Harvey Weinstein, we had 2 penthouses at the Soho Grand. So they would do the film festival at Tribeca, then they would stay at Soho. And so the hotel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, had 15 floors. And then the 16th floor was the 2 penthouses. Harvey Weinstein would rent both penthouses, and then he would rent out every single room on the 15th floor.
Oh, wow.
So he was putting an entire floor of rooms between him and his penthouse. So he can invite people up there or do just absolute batshit crazy things. Yeah, he was a maniac, dude. He was a maniac. He was an absolute maniac, dude. And everybody was always like, why does he do that? Why is he buying out the top floor and the penthouses? Like it's not like he's buying out those rooms for his assistants or, you know, family members that are coming to the Tribeca Film Festival or stars that are in the film.
Yeah, it's just
he's
bizarre.
just, they're empty rooms. They're completely empty. So, you know, then you flash forward to 2016 or whenever, you know, when all of these sexual allegations come forward, you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense why he rented out an entire floor of rooms, because he was being an absolute creepster, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm sure some of that stuff happens, but like I didn't think like on that level. Well, you know, because when you get to that level, you got actors
powerful people,
millions of dollars per film. You know,
it's really powerful men taking advantage of really powerful women sometimes. You know, just because they're so powerful. There's so much money and there's so much power in some of these situations.
Yeah, he could make or break their career. You know,
big time, especially in 2004. You know, when he's coming off the curtails of, you know, Inglourious Bastards and Pulp Fiction and, you know, all of these monster films that he was responsible for making and launching Quentin Tarantino's career, basically.
Yeah, I it's interesting too that like that how far the mighty fall though, because now the guy's in jail. Like it's amazing to me that even happened, because I thought he had too much money and he would get over it. You know.
Yeah, I think he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, I think if he was 10 years earlier, he might have gotten away with it. And maybe now, maybe
right in the middle of Me Too. So all these women started coming out. So
man,
many different accusers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and his was also just really bad. It was just really bad. Really bad.
Does that teach you like a sort of a lesson? Like being a performer, I had a rule that I was a stage performer. I had a rule that I was never to be alone with any woman that was not my wife. And the people at the show kind of knew, like, you know.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'll be honest. I've never.
I just was extremely careful. I didn't want to give anybody a reason to make accusations or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no, I've never been on a set where it's just two people alone.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm hanging out on set, it's like at a cast table or at the crafty table, you know, like getting lunch or something.
And there's multiple people around. Yeah, I guess I'm talking about
if I'm not there, I'm in my trailer by myself with the door closed. You know?
Okay, well that makes sense. But see, I'm talking about like green rooms. Sometimes people just come in and out, and you know. Yeah. So I would push somebody at the door. I was a little paranoid.
That's you know, I guess that's a real thing to be concerned. I've never felt, and I've never been in a situation where I've felt something like that would happen. I mean, you know, we have like I have every month we do a show, you know, and so we rehearse, and sometimes we rehearse at each other's houses and stuff, and it's just two actors, you know, rehearsing lines and stuff. So, you know, I mean, there's moments like that, but I've never once got an inkling, you know, and it's just, you know. I've never come across someone who behaves like that, and I don't behave like that. So therefore,
no, I figured you didn't.
Yeah, it's still, never been.
I wondered if it makes you a little more cautious and a little more, because I was always concerned with appearances. Like I didn't want anybody to even give them the opportunity to say I did something or I said something, or you know, whatever.
If I'm on a kid's show, I will make sure that there's always other adults around.
I did the same thing. Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised in the magic show circuit. They would go like, you'd show up at some rich person's house, and they go, "Oh, the kids are in the living room, and all the adults are somewhere else." outside or something having drinks. And I'm like, no, this
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
coming in, and you
Yeah.
gotta be here with me while I do this. You know.
Yeah, I think on a kids show, I always try to stay in the most crowded areas as I can. You know, that way
It's a shame. This is the world that we live in. You gotta be careful.
There's no way. I mean, yeah, dude, I would be very careful.
It's like Bill Burr. What is that, kid? Get it away from me.
Yeah. If I had kids, if I had a kid out here, I would definitely consider putting them into the biz. But man, yeah, I'd keep there would never be a moment in their day where they wouldn't have a family member around them. It's bad. It's really bad out here with some of that stuff. Yeah, man. There was this one guy on Nickelodeon, this one director. I did a couple Nickelodeon shows. He loved me. Turned out he was an absolute predator. Like,
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was like that chubby white director. I can't remember his name right now, but
there was a lot of stories about him not long ago.
He was an absolute monster.
The foot guy, right? He had like a foot fetish.
Yeah. He
so
was the biggest Nickelodeon director out there. Like he did all the shows. He created and wrote, and he was like the Martin Scorsese of kids television. Like,
you're right.
He was legit.
Time,
He was big time. So it was good to be like liked by him, you know, like show up. Like if you showed up and did your lines and you made him laugh, like you were probably gonna get more work. But yeah, that guy's I'm never get a job again, you know, from that guy, you know. So it's weird.
God, weird. You should have showed him your feet. That's what you should have did.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like being in that position and losing everything because you were telling young girls like take off your shoes?
You're gonna fucking flip. But the Nickelodeon episode I did was Henry Danger, and I played a nail salon tech who was actually doing a pedicure on one of the kids.
That's
so funny. It's so funny that you say that. Holy shit.
Apparently the Twitch stream died and I don't know why. So this is what happens. Yeah. And Wild Ascension saying some things in the chat. I told you twice, just email me. I had somebody else had some issues, so just email me and I'll fix that for you. Yeah, so you got some secret plans that you can't talk. I was going to ask you what are your plans for the next year, because it's that time of year. I don't know about you, but at this time of the year, I'm always like taking stock and what am I going to accomplish next year? Are you doing that kind of thing?
No, that's for sure. I'm working on some really cool stuff. I cannot talk about it at all. But I'm really excited about it, like insanely excited about it. If the next 2 weeks goes as good as I hope, maybe, you guys might hear something. We'll see. But yeah, I got something really good cooking, really, really, really good cooking. So yeah, we'll, stay tuned soon. Soon.
All right. Well, I hope you'll come back again soon, or I owe you one. So if you want me to come on your show one night when you're doing something, I'd be happy to do that.
That could be fun.
We have to keep laughing at this stuff, because one of the things is once you peel back these layers of deception, I think humor is a great way to deal, because this is ridiculous. This shit is ridiculous. It's just
comedy.
So ridiculous.
It's a farce. It's so funny, and it writes itself. And if you just step back, there's so much content to be made out of this stuff in a really fun, unique way. And there's more than one way to do it. And I'm really excited. Really, really excited for the next year. I haven't been this excited about anything since the big phone home, and since I was doing stuff that meant a lot to me, so
no, it's good, and I'm glad that you got that back, because that's I know it had to be a kick in the teeth, everything that happened, and I was like, I felt bad for you.
It took a year to get back on track, man. I feel like I'm just now getting
your mojo back now.
That's mojo, also just getting back. Just getting my financial life back together, getting my work schedule back together, being able to have a much more life and work balance. it's just there's been a lot of learning, a lot of
especially West
experimenting.
Coast prices of, I can imagine what you're paying for where you live, and Jesus Christ. I have a friend that lives in
It's crazy.
somewhere in LA. I can't remember what neighborhood, but like he's
Yeah.
paying, it's just crazy the cost of living out there.
No,
So
it's wild.
Yeah.
It's really expensive. Yeah. So, I'm hoping that this year things are gonna be a lot different. But hey, we'll see, man. Things fall apart. Things, that's the thing with this town. It's very fickle. One day you're on top, the next day it's not as great. So, managing my expectations, I'll say. Is what
I'm gonna expect the worst, hope for the best guy.
Exactly. Just trying to manage my expectations as much as I can, and hope for the best. And I think I think it's going to be a good year. I'm excited for it.
I'm excited to see what you got going on. So that's great.
Yeah. Oh, dude, just wait. You're gonna love it. Like, you are going to love it. Love it. Love it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you make sure you keep me informed as soon as you can talk about that, because now I'm going to be wondering like what's going on.
Yeah. No, I gotta keep it top secret.
Oh no, I know. Yeah,
there can be some really fun, different, unique elements to this project. I'm so excited about it. Yeah, I'm super, super excited about it. And and a lot of it is therapy. A lot of it is going to be payback for me. These are the things I can tell you. Like, just no, I don't fuck around. Like, once. No,
I know you kind of come with it. So, and I respect that about you. Like, there's a certain class of creative person. You know this because you've been involved in all these different creative things, and certain people are like just good at bringing it.
Yeah.
So I believe in you, and I can't wait to see what you got going. I'm like, oh no, this is going to be good, Ben, because you're going to come with it and bring it like you do. So it's going to be a cool thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, if you thought my police edit of UAP Mike's channel was any good,
that shit was brilliant.
Just wait.
All right. Well, you don't be a stranger, and I appreciate you coming here and doing this. And I owe you one now. So anytime you need me over there, just message me, and I'll be there.
I will. I appreciate it, man. I try to watch your shows many times as I can. I don't get to watch everyone, but yeah, man, it's you make me laugh. You make me laugh, and you're also insanely informative. A lot of the stuff I talk about, you end up talking about, or vice versa. And it's good to use you as a resource because you do actually research your shit, and it's things we don't hear enough is like these shows are needed in a sea of terrible information. Like, like it's nice to know that there are not a lot of guys who are zagging while everyone is zigging. And I think usually the zaggers end up hitting bigger,
long term.
In the long term, going against the grain, sticking to your morals, sticking to your beliefs, sticking to your integrity and your not even beliefs, but just your moral code. I think it's going to be way more useful and way more lucrative and way more fulfilling and way more
from your mouth to God's ears.
Healthy.
Praise the cash, bitches.
Praise the cash, bitches. Yeah. Hell yeah. Thanks, Stephen.
All right, you have a good night. Thanks for being here. Lou from Lou Reviews, ladies and gentlemen. And there are disclosure boners deflating all over America and possibly other places in the world right now. We want to take a moment to thank and recognize you kind and generous people. I'm sorry I didn't want to interrupt the conversation for the super chats, but we thank you. UFO John Doe, kind and generous $4.99, says, I survived the rabbit hole thanks to Stephen on exposing the UFO shuffle con, the hand of trickery and tactics used. Keep exposing the frauds. Thank you. I will. Longtime show supporter of UFO John Doe, Red Panda Koala, kind and generous $5 super sticker. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We have King Milkfart Harassment Archive. Thanks for being a member as well. And thanks to all you members. Says, God bless both of you. Carlot with a kind, Car Tot, I apologize, with kind and generous $1.99 super sticker. I thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Big news show supporter, Zizix, a big show supporter. Zizix is the guy that bought all those memberships. So you people in the live chat, if you got a free membership, please be sure to thank Zizix. And thanks also for being a member, Zizix. Very, very generous of you. UFO intros. I'm sorry that I missed this, or I would have pulled this one up since it was a question for both of us. What do you guys, and I apologize for that, what do you guys think of the Gang of Eight not having clearances to be briefed in a skiff? True. Not true. I don't believe it's true. Because if you're on the House Intelligence Committee and, you know, these are the highest members of government, for them to claim that secrets are being kept from them, personally, I just don't buy it, UFO intros. But the problem is that the waters are very, very muddy. And how do you get a straight answer about whether or not they're not getting briefed in the skiff if they request it? You'd have to call all 8 of them, the whole Gang of 8. For those unaware, the Gang of 8 is the highest members of our government that basically have access to everything within the government, all the government secrets, or they usually would, including defense secrets and classified secrets. And people are now claiming that the Gang of 8 is not having clearances to be briefed about the UFO or UAP issue in a skiff. I don't believe it personally, UFO intros, but thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. One second. Okay. And thanks very much to Lou from Lou Reviews. I'm a terrible show host, but I will add it to the description of the video. Just search on YouTube, hit that little magnifying glass and search Lou, L-U, not L-U-E, just L-U, Reviews. Go on over and go over to his YouTube channel, smash the subscribe button. I promise you, if you like what we do here, you're going to really like what he's doing over there. I just watched his last show, which I thought was pretty funny because he's just going through like obliterating some of this stuff. And I enjoy seeing somebody that's not me do that for a change. And I agree with him that there needs to be more of this in a sea of garbage. There needs to be somebody. Yeah, Lou Reviews agrees with me and says that's not true. Let's wait for Senate to comment on this situation. I don't believe that they have information that's being withheld from them. Montauk Jerkoff, be careful of the UFO rabbit hole. It could lead you to the UFO glory hole. Well, yeah, Simon Fly is here. And Simon Fly, I have to talk to you about this music video situation because I hate not playing your videos. So we got to fix that. People are thanking Lou and Lou Reviews. And by the way, he's in the live chat. So if you're in the live chat, just click on his avatar and you can go right over to his channel and subscribe. You guys should support him just as you support me because there needs to be voices of reason out there in a sea of garbage peddlers. You know, but it is nice to see that there seems to be more voices rising. We've got, you know, other people that are looking at this stuff critically and sort of breaking it down. And I, for one, am very, very happy to see that. Sandra, welcome Sandra McDonald, who says, great show. Welcome Sandy Smith, who says, thank you, Lou. Okay, Dan, the guy you were thinking of was Dan Schneider. He was the guy who had the foot thing. You know, I always wonder about these guys. And you know, what I said to Lou is like, when I was in the entertainment industry, I was acutely aware that sometimes misunderstandings could happen or somebody could misconstrue something you said or something. And I guess I was a little paranoid because I made sure we did these stage magic shows and there was always some people around, you know, the theater people or, you know, whatever. I would not be alone with any individual. There always had to be somebody with me. And you saw in those videos I played last night, there was an older gentleman. He was a retired magician who worked for me. He was what we would commonly call a sideman. a lot of people don't know this, but all magicians, the good ones, have good sidemen, and retired magicians make the best sidemen. Anyway, his name was Dave, and Dave would always make sure that he was with me, so I was never alone with any other individual. So, and it's a shame that we live in that kind of a world, but I did have, the other issue was also that I was married, and sometimes we did shows and my wife was not present, and but she knew and trusted Dave very well. So if any situation were to happen, she would talk to him and get the straight story. If she had any doubts about my story, I don't know. It's just a shame that we live in that kind of world. But I thought it's best to be cautious, because the most valuable thing in my life really probably is my marriage. So I didn't want to risk that for anything. Sometimes some fan or woman would make their way backstage, or, you know, I never want to be alone with somebody that's not my wife. And by the way, you know, to you men, that's just a good thing to do. Just be very cautious. You have to protect that investment that you have at all costs, because you don't want something like a stupid misunderstanding to get in the way of that, right? Wise Monkey says being married is an issue. I can confirm. You know, Wise Monkey, the greatest gift that God ever gave man was a woman, right? If not for my wife, I would probably be dirty and hungry. My clothes wouldn't be washed. When I was terrible at being a bachelor. I mean, sometimes I did okay, but most of the time, you know, I was terrible at, you know, women take, a good woman is the greatest gift from God that you could ever get. It really is, because they just make your life like incredibly better. You're like, you know, what's not to like, right? You get fed, they take care of you. And if you ever notice too, like, married men are always better dressed. That's because their wives buy them their clothes and take care of them, and, you know, whatever. Lou Reviews is in the live chat and says, thank you all for the love, truly felt. Yeah, you're always welcome. And by the way, somebody in live chat, Lou, mentioned that you're always slagging Lou. Why would you have him here? So maybe they're not aware, but for those unaware, I said unkind things about Lou way, probably a couple of years ago now, in the past, and we got past that. And by the way, I was just misinformed. I didn't know him. I knew like his online persona, I guess. And at the time, I was railing against everybody that was having these UFO celebrities who I didn't feel pressed them hard enough with real questions. But eventually he did, and now we see what happened. Like, he got hammered because he dared to ask real questions. And you know, I at that time was supportive of him. I changed my tune, and you know what? It's okay. We all make mistakes. Sometimes it taught me a lesson to not prejudge somebody that you don't really know. I didn't really know him, and I didn't even have the right to be that judgmental of him. And now it makes me think, but some of these other people, they are circle jerkers. I did not prejudge or judge some of those other guys too harshly, but him I did. You know, he was just doing his search for the truth of this stuff a different way that I didn't understand or appreciate. But later, having heard it, now I understand and appreciate it. And you know, when he suddenly became the devil. In fact, there was a meme that floated around of two guys getting hung, and it was both of us. And the caption was me saying, "Is this your first time?" or something like that. Like, because yeah, you know, yeah. And Lou Review said the same thing. Like, we both talk shit on each other, and isn't it funny? Like, and that's the other thing. I think when we both didn't really know each other, we didn't know how much that we had in common, right? Like, yeah, and by the way, I have nothing like the success he's had in the film world, but I tried for a time. And then I had the brain aneurysm and my eye went wonky, and those auditions didn't go too well. So I kind of, you know, and by the way, I had fun. I was in a bunch of indie films, and I tried to be an actor. I thought it kind of went. The problem was I had a manager. Well, not it wasn't a problem, but I had a manager, sort of a booking person who booked the magic shows, who kept telling me like, you ought to start auditioning. You could get a lot of work. And I knew a lot of magicians who did commercials and other stuff on the side. So I started doing that. Oh, but anyway, he and I had all this stuff in common. And I love creative, powerful people, right? Like somebody that's an actor in films, or somebody that's a musician and a songwriter. Like those are my people, powerful, creative people, or show hosts, content creators. There's something about these kind of creative people. Like they're like my tribe. So if I had known more about him, I wouldn't have been that way. You know, I would have been more like, yeah, he and I would. The truth is, he and I would have a few beers and be friends if not for this disagreement over UFO celebrities or whatever. And by the way, it's so stupid anyway. This is a false reality. And, you know, one of the things, like we talked about this video games, is a false reality. Reality is boring. Reality sucks. So this UFO things gives people an escape from reality. Because life is hard, life is boring as shit. And isn't it a more exciting world if there's aliens visiting planet Earth and the government is covering it up and we might have bodies and even alien spaceships? That would be such a cooler world than the real world that we live in. So this is why it works. You know, but eventually when the layers of deception all fall apart, what you're left with is that it's a false reality. Most of it, 98% of it, is a false reality. Yes, Richard Warner says Linda Moulton Howe telling Wolfman fairy tales for money. Yeah, the latest from Linda Moulton Howe, if you didn't know, is that she's telling Wolfman. There's Wolfmen in, I think it's England or Wales. And not only is there Wolfmen, Richard Warner, but there's a secret underground base of Wolfmen. And she's doing it straight. Like, this shit is real. It is. We might cover that tomorrow. Thanks for reminding me, Richard Warner. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people watch. You know what? We're going to cover it. We'll cover it tomorrow night. I needed a show. I had a guest. Well, I had a guest. It's a long story. But yeah. We could cover that tomorrow because it is gold. She's telling these stories about wolfmen and a secret underground base full of wolfmen. Patty says Linda's digging at the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. Linda Moulton Howe is about 6 months away from writing UFO romance novels. I think that's a good, hey man, that's a good idea. Maybe we ought to beat her to it, right? I also want to take a moment to remind you that we're going to be on, Truthseekers will be on, pardon me, we'll be on every night at 9 p.m. going forward, at least for the next several weeks. There'll be 3 or 4 new and live shows, and then we're doing this best of thing. People really liked the best of last week. And of course, the best ofs, you know, if people know it's not brand new and live, it doesn't get quite the views, but they did pretty good. And I thank all of you who are supporting that. It's a cool thing that we're going to be on every night at 9 p.m. going forward, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we want to thank initials DAW for the kind and generous $6.78 PayPal pledge. And Algaray in the Twitch chat, the kind and generous $1 PayPal pledge. We've got Maria, the MVP of PayPal pledges, with a kind and generous $50 PayPal pledge. And Maria said, I love the TS Classic episodes. I hope you keep doing that. Yes, or you could just go hit the live button and there's hundreds and hundreds of previous shows. But maybe people like that I'm picking the ones that we're doing the replays for. In any case, thank you for the support, Maria. Thanks to all of you. And I do. It was difficult to address it, but I think Wild Ascension was in the live chat and saying something about not getting a package from me. And when we did that thing where we were sending off these 3D printed models, I had a few people not get the package. I sent it off the least expensive way without tracking. Anybody else that didn't get one, I was told about it right away, and I sent another package with tracking. And I think I don't know if there was one. I can't remember if it was one or more or two. But I sent like 12 of those packages off one week, and I think one or maybe two people didn't get them. If you didn't get it, we'll make that good. I still have a bunch of those models and a bunch of other stuff. I'll make you a nice package and send it off to you. I wish you would have let me know at the time, because we certainly wouldn't want you to, send some support and not get what you were promised. I'm always a man of my word. People who know me know that. So whatever I have to do to fix it and get it to you, I'll send it FedEx or whatever. Just let me know, and I'll get it taken care of for you right away. And as far as any bad blood between Lou and I, we're good. And I hope people know and understand and appreciate that. So we'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat before we bounce on out of here. William Runner says, Linda Moulton Haley even said she wants them to impart to her the ability to live for like 500 years or more. Yeah, apparently they're like immortal, right, William Runner? It's great. When did the clocks go back over there? Oh, I'm dreading it. I don't know. I'll find out for you, though. Daylight savings time starts 2023. November 5th. So in just a few days, they're going to turn the clocks back, and then it's going to get dark at like 5 o'clock, which is depressing. And then really, as winter progresses, it feels like it starts getting dark at 4:30 here. I hate this daylight savings. It's stupid, and it's depressing because it feels like it's just always dark. I'm not an early riser. I'm a night person, generally don't mind the dark, but sometimes you want to go outside and get some sun. I have a vitamin D deficiency. I'm supposed to get more sun. Could you imagine? Look how pale I am. All right, so we have done our due diligence. I want to thank all you kind and generous benefactors, you kind and generous Patreon supporters. By the way, I'm making the video journal for October tonight, and I will post it late tonight to both Patreon and to the members only section here on YouTube. And we thank you kind and generous super chatters, super sticker people, super thanks people, you PayPal pledgers, Twitch subscribers, everybody. We thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support, and of course for helping us to praise the cash. So we have done our due diligence. I want to make sure that I thank Lou from Lou Reviews again. I knew we'd have a fun conversation. Go on over to Lou Reviews on YouTube and smash that subscribe button. If you haven't already, smash the subscribe button for us. And please do like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. It really, really does help. And thank you. I see people retweeting or sharing my Facebook posts with the show links. I appreciate all of you. So that's all we got for you tonight, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambian. Good night. God bless all of you.